What You Doing, the interview podcast where I talk to cool people about the amazing stuff that they're working on. My name is Matt, and this time I'm sitting down with Adam Bell to talk about his new game, Uneasy Lies the Head, 2nd edition. Adam styles Uneasy Lies the Head as a competitive royal intrigue TTRPG. And as we discussed in the interview, this is exactly the sort of game for the schemers and wheelers and dealers among you. This is exactly the sort of game that I'm really curious how it would hit with people who are less familiar with TTRPGs, if the sort of more specific focus and different gameplay elements would grab them a little easier. I've got some updates I need to share, but we'll worry about that later. For now, let's get into the interview. I'm already trying to get better about like podcast face, because it's
podcast face.
Yeah, so it's a thing that's really fun when you record like dozens of hours of yourself watching another person talk, where it says like, hi, question, and then the guest will answer and I'll just sit here like,
a nice dead-eyed stare for the audience.
Where it's just like, and I'm just looking at myself, I'm like, what is wrong with you? What is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening here? It's public school stare.
Hotkeys set up in OBS so you can cut away from you when you're not talking.
I've thought about doing that, especially with clips and stuff, because it's doubly funny when both faces are like right next to each other. Mm-hmm. Just me in a corner, like, Oh man, I've been reading the game the last week. It's very funny to every time I read a game in a new, like, not necessarily like genre, but like new mechanisms and stuff, you know, when it's not like, oh, it's, you know, it's based off this other thing, where I'm just like, all right, what the hell are we doing? What are we, how the hell, you know, it's a fun, it's like, and it's every game. Anytime I read a new game, I'm just like, all right, what are we, all right, we got cards. Okay. Where do the cards go? Okay. And it's very, there's a lot of like, okay, I understand that. Wait, let's go back and read that. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun reading things with ADHD. It makes it real fun.
Yeah. I would say less fun writing them and trying to make sure that it works for your, like, whoever's reading it. Like, will they be able to understand this? I genuinely don't know. I've stared at this shit for way too long at this point.
Do you get the thing I do all the time where, like, you'll be having a conversation with somebody and you will put a very important sentence where it's like, this is kind of like the linchpin of our conversation, and you will forget to include a word, and forgetting that word changes the entire intention of your sentence. And you're like, well, that's not what I wanted to say. Shit. Like every time I've forgotten a don't, I'm just like, no, I meant a don't. I'm sorry. Hang on. Yeah. Everybody stop.
Hang on, I said the exact opposite of
right.
What you read is the exact.
What I meant was
of the intention.
100% opposite of that sentence that I put.
Yeah, that happens.
It's just happened like the last 2 years. It feels like I make this joke all the time where I'm like, I feel like I'm getting worse. Like it's degrading. And it probably
there's more words. You know, you have too many words in your brain that of course you're going to forget some.
That's what it is.
Yeah, you've said too many sentences over the last however many years. That
I saw somebody. They were like, they had to do vocal training and vocal care because they used their voice too much, and I was like, oh no, that's gonna be me. That's me. I was like, the idea that your voice has like a lifespan, that it's like, yeah, you've got 12 billion words in you. Use them wisely. And it's like, oh no, I got to be coming up on that.
Right. A lot of it, I think, comes from like, because I think part of it would be like making sure you're speaking like in the natural register versus like force it, like accidentally without realizing forcing too high, too low could grind you up. I don't know how it works, but
that's what I
know
figured.
There's like a more comfortable level to talk at. And
yeah, I figure it's they're talking loudly or shouting, or like you said, like talking in a different register. But
yeah, like if I went down here for every day, you know, that would probably kill me and I'd have to get throat surgery. But
this is business item. This is when I'm in a
that's
meeting.
Right.
Oh, that's all those. That's just some like business nonsense trick I saw a while ago that was like, it was like when you take a phone call, like pretend like you're your assistant, and then you pass the phone off and you do a slightly different voice. And I was like, one, that's ridiculous. Like, I can't even imagine how you thought of this. And two, I would forget immediately.
Yeah. You really have to have two different voices that you can do and that you kind of can inhabit immediately, because it's like, no, that
hello, Adam's phone. No, that's you. Right. I know it's you. Come on. Don't
all the standing that you're pretending like you're gaining from doing this little trick saying that you have an assistant is lost whenever it's like this guy's pretending.
Yeah.
This is a
this guy pretends
assistant.
to have an assistant to make himself seem more important, and that's wild.
He put me on hold for 6 minutes.
That's even
and
fun.
He was just there.
You just put your phone down next to a stereo, right. And you're just like, okay, hang on. I got to seem important.
I could hear breathing. Didn't even put me on hold correctly.
Hear you like messing in the kitchen. It's like, I can hear you're there. Just come on. Hey everybody, welcome to What You Do in Podcast, the interview podcast where I talk to cool people about the amazing stuff they're doing. My name is Matt. Today I'm sitting down with Adam. Adam, say hello.
I'm Adam Bell. I make tabletop games. You might have heard of them. If you have, we'll say you've heard of either Grasping Nettles or My Brain is a Stick of Butter, or hopefully the upcoming Uneasy Lies the Head, which is allegedly what we're here to talk about.
It's going to be one of many things we talk about, assuredly. if this podcast goes the way any of the other ones have gone, it will be one of so many topics. I've followed Adam for a bit. He's been talking about Uneasy Lies the Head. And as I mentioned in the intro, in case I cut it out, it's very fun and confusing and interesting to read a new game. It's a lot of emotions to read a new game. Because there's a lot of information all at once. And try as a designer and a layout person and an editor might, it's really hard sometimes to get sequential words into your brain in such a way that you understand what's happening. And I will say I got there. It's not that the text is confusing or anything like that. I think the text is actually one of the things I love. This is a thing that's going to happen a lot where I just talk effusively about the book. One of the things I love is actually the layout is super clean. The text is super clean. There's a really nice image, rules, text setup. There's always something there's something exciting and is pulling me forward. But also, man, words are hard sometimes to get in there.
It's good to hear that you got there and that, yeah, words are hard. Because it definitely, I try to put that like in like the first, it may be the second page where I'm like, look, there's 5 or so things that are going on in this game and they all relate. So like I had to pick an order.
Right, we had to put the pages in a certain order just realistically. Mm-hmm. And this is what we went with, and hopefully this works out.
Hopefully by the end they're connecting, and then yeah, like you said earlier, maybe you go back and reread, and that's fine. That means you have questions, which means you're interested in the game. We're doing a great job. But it's always a big worry.
Adam, tell us a little bit about Uneasy Lies the Head. Kind of a big like elevator pitch.
Yeah, so the tagline that I have on it is competitive GM-less Royal Court role playing. And it's kind of all of those things. It's competitive in that your characters are like they're butting heads all the time. You're trying to like win the story, so to speak. Like there's no points or anything at the end, but you're trying to like succeed in your character's goals while like maybe stopping other characters. And so like it's not like a lot of RPGs we'll do PvP from time to time, but like the base assumption is that we're cooperating. But here, since it's a royal court setting, and the fun part of any sort of royal court drama is how these people like step on each other's toes and get out in front of each other's schemes and all this stuff. So that's the idea. You're a bunch of players, I say 2 to 5 players, hopping into a royal court setting that you are kind of making on the fly at the beginning of the game, and just doing your stuff, lying to each other, allying here, betraying there, that kind of stuff.
I appreciate the use of the word competitive because I think it's great to call it out. I think there are a lot more competitive TTRPGs than people think because of the way it's framed. Like, I think if you get, I don't even want to say galaxy brain about something like Fiasco, but if once you kind of understand the play model of Fiasco and like how you're doing, that's a competitive game.
There's a competitive streak to it for sure. Yeah, especially
you can
like
get
a good session of Fiasco.
Yeah. Because once you get over the hump, the first game of Fiasco I ever did was an atrocity because it was with someone, and I don't want to say that that's why this person was bad. It was with someone. It was their first time playing. It was also my first time playing. He wasn't very experienced with TTRPGs. I was not as experienced with TTRPGs. The difference between us was he was trying to win, and like win in the way that you can't win in Fiasco. Do you know what I mean?
Because if you get too many dice, that's actually the bad ending.
Right. Yeah. And so
I don't really know what you're winning.
I feel like as soon as you understand, I think Fiasco is a great litmus test for getting TTRPGs where like you understand like, oh, sometimes things going bad is fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bad thing happening to my character is great.
That's what we're here for.
Right. And I think this game is competitive in that same way where it's like, ooh, I'm scheming, I'm trying to do something. And then, someone sitting across from me is like, ooh, I'm going to mess up all your plans. And then both of you are just like, ooh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm trying to take over. I'm trying to, poison my father. So I become the king. And it's like, ooh, wouldn't it be bad if there was an advisor that knew and ratted you out? It's like, ooh, yes, that would suck.
That would be terrible.
But also
this is
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That competitiveness, I think, is what makes a lot of more narrative focused TTRPGs exciting, is recognizing that push and pull is what makes drama and excitement in the game.
Yeah. And I think that's really good. So the way that I do this in Uneasy Lies the Head is, there's a couple of different ways. The first and like the thing that runs through it all is the way kind of the dice mechanic works, which is everybody, you're basically always rolling dice whenever you're resolving one of the plans. And now we're immediately getting into the problem of structuring. What order do you talk about these things? But when you're resolving one of the plans, which are the big things that happen in the game, like you're spreading rumors or you're declaring war on somebody or you're proposing a duel at such and such time. A lot of these are going to resolve with a dice roll, and I want those to be like the very fun moments that, like, no matter what happens, everybody as players is happy, because it's exactly what you're saying. We're like, okay, if I completely blow this roll because everybody piled in on me, and I have to do the Mar steps of my plan, that's going to be fun. Or if I crush it and I get to do the make steps and ruin your day, I hope that's fun for you as well, because now you have a different situation to play in. So like the way the dice work out is all players get a chance to like spend their resources, which are these note cards that they have lying around the table, of like their peers and their holdings, their like cool castles and all this other stuff. They get to like use those to get dice to interfere with your roll, or to help. Maybe they're helping.
It could happen. It's an option.
Yeah, you can help.
Don't let me stop you.
And so then everybody rolls all the dice, and there's a target number that's based on some other stuff that we don't have to get into at the moment, but it's between 1 and 6. So let's say it's 3, and you're just looking for a number of different faces on the die equal to your difficulty. So like if you rolled 3 dice and you're looking for a 3, you need like a 1, a 4, and a 5, because that's 3 different faces. But if I'm interfering and I also roll a 5, that cancels yours. And so then we know exactly why you failed this roll, and it's because I rolled my die. And I rolled my die by activating this peer I have in my retinue that's like your father, the king, that you're trying to poison. He's in my retinue. And his die made you fail. So now we've got this whole pile of like mechanical goop that we are going to sift through, and it's going to make a really great result narratively.
Those are the things in more narrative focused games that I find like I can really latch onto, where it's like, okay, it's being decided by a dice roll that, we have this opposed thing, we're building a pool, we're figuring it out. But then as we go through it and we figure out, like you said, you immediately have that thread of like, you didn't succeed because I stopped you. I stopped you because I used this asset. That asset is your father. And then, okay, cool. There's our narrative thread. We're right into the next scene. The game keeps rolling. And that gives me, in sort of my mechanical, like, I need pieces to fit in the slots. Like, oh, cool, I'm right here. Cool. Okay, so my father messed me up. Because he's in your retinue. So there's a combination of that. So the next time your turn comes around or we have a scene, we're off to the races. We're building, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for anybody confused, because it did take me, again, reading a little bit, plans I think in this are really exciting. Because it's basically the whole game is basically everyone has a turn in a round. All of you are playing some grade of royal shithead. And you're just basically calling your scenes of like, oh, I'm gonna have a scene where you and I have a fight and I make you look stupid. And that's gonna happen in so many turns. And then when you get there, you go, man, I hope this fight goes well. Ooh, in 3 turns, when I make you look stupid, it's gonna go great. And what I love about that is one of the things that gets derided a lot in TTRPGs. And when I say TTRPGs in this instance, I mean D&D and its derivatives, is you can't have secrets. You can't have a secret. No, because people want secrets to be exciting, like on television, right? People want a secret reveal to be like on TV where they go, actually, I was this other guy. And that sucks. That's so unexciting in a TTRPG. Because what makes a secret exciting is foreshadowing, dramatic irony, and playing into the knowledge of that secret. And so what I love that this does is it puts all of the information of what's going to happen for the rest of the game visible and in the hands of the players immediately. So when I say in 3 turns, we're gonna have a duel and I'm gonna make you look foolish, I say that to your face and you go, okay, cool. So I have 3 turns or 2 turns possibly to stop you or try to finagle a way in which I don't look foolish, actually. Right. I'm not owned is my plan for 2 turns.
My plan is simply to not get owned.
Right. I would simply not be owned. So by 2 turns, what if, and I like this game really, this game is an incredibly narrative focused game. There's so much narrative, like meat and stuff to work with. It's also so mechanically focused with the way that it works. Players have a sort of nobility rank, which goes from 1 to 5. And then in a really slick piece of design, they have status, which goes from 5 to 1, the inverse, meaning basically the higher you are on sort of the nobility ranking, the harder it is to mess with you, which is really fun. Because, okay, in 3 turns, you're going to, we're going to have a duel and you're going to make me look foolish. Okay. In those 3 turns, I'm going to become king of Spain. And then I will just simply not look foolish.
Right.
You will just simply not.
We'll be updating the rankings between then and now, and I'm going to go up. I knew this was coming. I've prepared to be higher on Esteem. Because there are 3 rankings that you kind of are trying to balance. There's power, knowledge, and esteem. So I think the duel is esteem. It doesn't matter, but it's like, I'm going to become more esteemed. So when you try to duel me, everybody's going to look at you and say, no, we love this guy.
Yeah. Why would you try to duel the king luck. That everyone loves?
Mm-hmm. That's the king of Spain. This is recent, but
we just made him king. We love him. What was kind of your design process with developing these? It feels odd to call them stats, but for just collection of numbers that represent things.
Yeah, they're stat adjacent.
Yeah,
they come from stats for sure.
How did you sort of build to this interplay?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's been so long. So brief history on Uneasy Lies the Head is I have a first edition that I published just on itch in, I want to say 2020. It must have been. And so that has the dice mechanic, but basically everything else is different. And it's a decent game, but I wanted more. And so ever since then, I've been kind of playing with how can I make the game that I wanted this to be, which I think I did. So that's good. Great news.
Good first.
How can I make
good
the game
first
that I
thing.
wanted this to be the first time, but like better? And it took 5 years before I finally committed to this version. And the rankings, or some version of the rankings, hopped up whenever I was making this. It was a very, very board gamey version, where I imagine that you would have these kind of cards that are ordered, and it was just I wanted a way to calculate, to generate numbers, like you said, like a stat, but I wanted it to be like deeply narrative. I wanted it to have like immediate implications, even if nobody ever rolls against my esteem and I'm at the bottom of the esteem track. Like, we all know what that means, is that nobody at court likes me compared to the other people. I'm still a noble, so I still have plenty of respect in the realm, whether it's earned or just because of my status or whatever. But yeah, so it kind of came from this, like, okay, how can I generate the numbers? Because I knew that the dice mechanic was going to stay the same. It was going to be this count the different faces on the dice, which means a 1 is, obviously, you can basically always do a 1. And a 6, good luck rolling 6 different dice unless you're rolling like 15 dice at once. And so this relative ranking kind of emerged from wanting something to generate a number between 1 and 5. That's what it comes down to.
It's great because looking through all of the design stuff, and I can absolutely see this sort of more board gamey version where, you know, you have like tokens or something where you're moving stuff up and down. We've all played those sorts of board games where it's like, okay, well, now I've gained a point, so now I go up and you go down and all of this, and it feels much more complicated than what this looks like. I really just appreciate the sort of immediacy with how you're able to figure out, like, okay, cool, I'm this, I'm here, you're here, boom, done. And it needs to be said, the game kind of says, like, yeah, roll if you feel like it could happen, and if you don't feel like it could happen, just you can just say no. That's fine.
Yeah, because the rolls, there's 2 types of rolls. There are rolls that are from the plans. So those are that's me putting my foot on the scale, whatever. That's me getting my foot in the door on your story.
It's me putting my foot in the door directly onto your scale. Right.
Saying, when you spread rumors, these are the results that can happen. You get, they're very, very inspired. These plans are very inspired by like PBTA moves. So there's a lot of pick lists, a lot of, okay, you successfully spread the rumor, choose what happens. Like, you can start tearing up the note cards of the other players and stuff like that. But then there's the other thing, which is the whole system of having scenes that aren't tied to the plans. And so, like, that's the loop of the game, is a scene that I have nothing to do with. Me, Adam, the designer, I wanted to have a sandbox for the players to play in. Like, every time I get involved, I want the players to have their own time, because they're going to come up with some cool shit. And sometimes, this is where the dice rolls you were talking about, sometimes those scenes can come to some sort of head, and this will depend on what type of group dynamic that you have. Like, when I play with people that play a lot of story games, we basically never do dice rolls in our scenes. But if I play with more traditional gamers like D&D people, they're rolling dice like immediately in the scene. And so there's a lot of like kind of massaging it to work for both sets of groups, and trying to encourage you, like, you don't do this don't get the dice out unless you're stopping this person, or you think this person, like, they're not powerful enough to do the thing they're describing.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned, like, specifically thinking of the non-structured or sort of the sort of open-ended scenes as like the player's space. And I've always like wondered, reading a book and talking and listening to designers, like that balance of like, okay, this is my game, here are my rules, here are the things, but then kind of also having to understand that there's only so much of that you can really control and codify and sort of say, here's what's happening.
Right.
And
there's only so much that I would even want to, even if I could do more. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to like recognize and understand that one of the big, arguments against D&D, I'm sorry. I try not to do it. I do it every time. I'm sorry. It's a touchstone. What are you going to do? Is, the idea of like rule 0, that GMs can do whatever they want, all of this. And so it's always interesting to see when games are, GM-less games that are designed where it's like everyone is a player, everyone has sort of equal authorial intent and say and stuff, is how do you balance those interactions? How do you balance that space? How do you find a way to create those boundaries to say, okay, here is the space that you can play in, and then here are the spaces where you're going to be interacting with the rules, and we cross over into mechanical resolution, capital letters.
Right. And how can you basically empower the players to know what their limits are? I think that's a big thing for GM-less games, because there's not like somebody to look to say, okay, what can we do? Like, where are the bars of my enclosure?
Mm-hmm.
Without that, I think a lot of players have a tendency to like hold back. But if you provide these structures and then set them loose and say like, yeah, here, you literally do anything you want, because all other players have the opportunity to say, no, that's too far. That hopefully will encourage players to like, yeah, push harder, know exactly like what their agency is and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, I like that, because it's the fun of, like we talked about at the very start, the idea of a competitive TTRPG, that like, okay, well, if I don't do anything, Adam's just going to make himself king of Spain and he can do whatever he wants. It's like, okay, well, I wanted to be king of Spain. So how do I, and we're saying Spain, I think a thing that's kind of like implied in the game, but not explicit, is like, this could be space. Sure. You could be, you could play the Lion King. Sure. Why not? It's not,
why not?
There's no, it was a thing that like hit me halfway through reading, where I was like, oh, none of these things are really explicit on any time frame or, like time period, physical location, temporal location.
Yeah.
Have a good time with it.
Because you're going to spread rumors no matter what time you're in. You're going to declare war on each other. Like, I wanted to keep it very thematically this royal court vibe, but yeah, not restrict you to like only being European kings.
This is only for people who like Crusader Kings, and that's it.
That's it.
Too bad.
So I'm making a GM-less game, and I'm thinking that's not a limited enough audience. I want it to be even smaller.
Right. It's people who like Crusader Kings 3 and play GM-less TTRPGs. Yeah. And that is my 6 friends, and they all bought the game, and that's great. So that's what Adam meant when he said, I made the game that I wanted. The 6 people that I wanted bought it. Actually, spinning off of that, do you ever find you have someone in mind when you write a rule or a mechanic or something for a game? Like, do you ever, in the sense of either an individual that you know or have interacted with, or in the style of making up a guy to get mad at? Do you ever go like, you write a rule and you go, actually, do you know, Power Gamer Gary would fuck this up too much. So no, actually, we're gonna have to do this slightly different. Or do you think, in a nice way, do you think of like, oh, my buddy Gary that likes games, he would think this is really cool?
I don't know if I think of specific people that I know or specific made up guys, but I do try to like think about like how different styles of play will interact with the different mechanics. Like, if Power Gamer Gary got a hold of this and like really gave every plan like a good study, because he's going to. This is Power Gamer Gary. Gary's going to realize that the best thing that he could do is to immediately declare war, probably, because when you resolve the make war plan, basically what that is whoever you declared war on and whoever else piled into the war, which could be all players, or it could just be a one-on-one, it could be whatever. Every round you have to like pretty much tear up your note cards one by one, every round, or agree to peace terms. And the hidden thing here that Power Gamer Gary has clocked immediately is that it does say that the peace terms can be anything. You can break the rules of the game. You can do all this shit. So Gary's going to do that, and he's going to, make himself king of everything and top of every track, except for other players aren't going to let it happen. And he's going to fall into a huge trap that I've laid for him. And then he'd be like, all right, that didn't work. Making war. I couldn't get everybody to agree to make me the god king of all mankind.
That war would have been great if everyone had simply agreed to make me king.
Right. It would have been simple because we could have done it within the rules.
Right.
It says you could do anything as long as everybody agrees. So then he's proposing a decree. And it's a very similar thing of, I don't give any sort of guidance on what the laws that you're passing are. And I even sort of hint in the clarification that, like, you can add new rules to the game. You can do all this silly stuff. So there are levers in there that the power gamer is going to pull, and that's great. But then I also want to think on the complete other side, the narrative. I don't have a name.
there's no real sort of like, there's no opposite Nancy for the power gamer. There's no other side of the coin for the power gamer.
But somebody who's just big on story, doesn't care about mechanics so much, is just trying to tell a good story. I think that is where, doing the scenes that don't correspond to the plans come in. That is where plans like the host festivity come in, which is very much just everybody comes in, we have a party, and people are going to be rolling dice and making an ass out of themselves, sure. But I think there's enough juice in all of the other mechanics that, like, the non-mechanical minded player will have fun with too. So no specific people that I'm keeping in mind for that, but hoping to spread the gamut. And that a lot comes from what I was talking about, that old version of it that was like mostly a board game. I wanted that version to be still fun if you didn't set a single scene and you still got a story out of it, but like incredible if you role played through everything. And since then, obviously, I've put in these scenes, so like I want you to role play all the time in the game.
I put the rules in there, so I wanted that to happen.
Yeah, I told you have to do something with your characters. But hopefully it's fun for a lot of people that have different taste.
Yeah, I think it's very open-ended, like you said, where you can sort of engage with it the way that you want. As long as you like you mentioned, you have these various tools, you have these various levers you can pull with, and that's what you do with levers, you pull with them. After you put your foot on the scale. And I think that's sort of, to me, the big difference between a TTRPG and a board game is a board game kind of really wants you to engage with all of its mechanics all the time, every time. Maybe not all the time, but every time you play the game, you're going to use all of the things in the game. Whereas
if you want to win, you have to push all the buttons.
If you want to, that's true. You could not buy a property in Monopoly if you wanted, sure.
Yeah. Pop a route. I'm just kind of going around.
Yeah, I'm just rent. Yeah. I'm gonna be a TikTok guy, and I'm just gonna do little videos when I'm at those locations. It'll be great. And the thing that I like about a TTRPG is you should engage with all of the rules, because that's why you chose to play this game, and that's kind of what the game brings to the table and that whole situation. See, I didn't say system matters so that Tony couldn't get mad at me, but you have all of these rules, all of these tools, all of these facets on the table, and you can say, okay, we're going to use this one all the time because this is how this works. This is what we want to see. And then we've also got this one, and maybe we'll use that. Maybe we'll use dice for scene resolution when we feel like it's really warranted, when we're not sure how it goes. And maybe sometimes we'll compare our stats and we'll see, oh, you're the King of Spain, I probably can't duel you. All right, we won't worry about it. And it's interesting. It's interesting, the interplay between rules like that. Going from first to second edition, I think that's come up a few times on the podcast, is getting something out, especially for people who are like starting game design, they're very early game designers, of just like the idea of making a game, saying, hey, here's the game. Maybe it's not complete, maybe it's not perfect, whatever, and getting it out there. When going from first to second edition here, did you feel like you were refining a thing? And you sort of mentioned like you were making the game that you wanted it to be. Was that more of a, I've got a lot of ideas that aren't fitting together properly. Let's take these ideas, sand them, edge them a little, and let's put them in the proper shape? Or was it, I've got some good ideas, let's knock those out of this design and then push them over here into this new space?
It was more the second. It was kind of a total demolition of the original. Like, they have the same title, the same dice mechanic, and the same vibe of you're doing this noble court stuff. So that's why it's still the same title, because it's a good title. But I threw basically everything out, and a few things kind of filtered back in slowly and then filtered out and in and out. But it was mostly starting from scratch. I think sometime at the end of last year, I was like, okay, this is Uneasy Lies the Head, second edition, like take 4. I'm going to start from nothing. I'm going to think of what I would do for this Royal Court game, me in 2024 as opposed to me in 2020. I'm a different person, different design sense, all of this stuff, and see what we can refine out of this, and see what we can make and what we can bring in from the last one, like what was doing a good job. And so like the dice, like I said, I think that was doing a good job. And then what we can leave out, which is the first one had like a variable, a troika style bag initiative system. So because I didn't want, one thing I didn't want was for everybody to be taking turns in order, like player A, then player B, then player C. Mm-hmm. And so like that concept was still there of like, I still want some sort of variation in the order, but how can I achieve that in a way that is better than the troika bag initiative? And the way I did that was, that's where the plans kind of come in. This delayed reaction. I'm going to spread rumors about you, but it's in 3 turns. And then you're going to host a festivity. That's in 6 turns. So we're taking turns in order to set our scenes, but then our plans are resolving in not a random order, but a shuffled order based on what we chose. And I think that's important just from like a narrative sense of getting everybody involved in the story, but at different times, so it doesn't feel too formulaic.
Yeah, because it could get a little boring too if it was, okay, I'm always after Gary, and so Gary's gonna talk about how he's got to do the war and become the God King, and then I'll eventually get to do my stuff.
Right, and that's actually reminds me of another thing I did to try to spice that turn order up. Is you're still going in order to set these scenes, like I said, but if you're following somebody's plan, so if you just spread your rumors, the end of your plan has a prompt for whoever's turn it is to set a scene. And they're very, they're simple prompts, but like just to push a vibe forward for the next scene. So I think after spread rumors, it's set your scene, with your character engaging in gossip. Mm-hmm. And so now if I'm Gary and I'm trying to do all this war stuff, now I got to show my character gossiping. Like, what does that mean for me? Because gossip is the kind of thing that's going to come up in Royal Court stories over and over and over. So as a designer, I don't feel bad making you do that probably once, twice a game, having a scene of somebody doing gossip, because that's great. But I do want to, push you in that direction to keep the scenes flowing between the plans. So like we just did this big rumor and now my character's learning about a different rumor, this kind of stuff. Yeah, and it all comes from trying to reinvent bag initiative.
What's more exciting than thing from a bag? How do I
get that vibe, but a little less chaotic, a little less, okay, fuck. What do you mean I gotta set, it's my turn again? I just had 3 turns.
Yeah, I just did. Come on.
I wanted multiple turns, but not like this.
Later. Put it later. Is that a thing that you find yourself doing this is a thing I always wonder for people who have made like multiple games. I think it's interesting to consider, your design language, I guess, like tools, like the things that you pull from when you're designing at, in the early days when you've only done like 1 to 3 things. And then I think later on, once you have like a large catalog, do you find yourself kind of to get to what I'm going to ask? One of the things that Spencer Campbell does that really interests me is he has a lot of one of his habits is like he will take a thing that he's already done and he will essentially like knock a chunk off or add a chunk and see how to shape it in a new way, how to push it in a new way, how to use it in a new way. And it's interesting to watch a sort of iterative design where you can be familiar with this stuff and then you can see how it flows through and how it connects and how it goes from this to this. And then every so often a new idea will jump in there and then it becomes a new thing. When you've designed, once you've designed a handful of games, do you find yourself taking those ideas and like almost using them like building blocks to say, I'm going to take this bit from this game and this bit from this game and this bit from this game, or maybe or not? Do you find yourself saying, well, I just did that in that game, so I'm not going to do those things, and I did that in this game, so I'm not going to do this game?
I do more. I think the second part, let's try something new. Let me go play around in a different pit and see what's over here. And I think I can't escape note cards. That's one thing.
Everyone loves note cards. They're great.
Every game I make, there's way too many note. You have to buy a pack of note cards to play one of my games. Sorry about that.
They're an add-on. They're just right there. You can just.
Maybe I should play some note cards. But I do try to do different things, and a lot of my design, I think, comes from the fact that I've played more board games than anybody should. So, like,
it's the right way to describe it. Once you've played enough, that is the correct way to describe it.
So yeah, a lot of my designs come from, okay, I like board games a lot. I think they're more narrative than any board gamers really understand. Not that they don't understand, but you know what I mean? Like, they don't give themselves credit for being great little narrative devices a lot of the times, even though a lot of them are. And so I like to kind of just sift around when I'm trying to make a new thing and be like, what kind of board game mechanism is going to feel good to get this type of story? So like with Uneasy Lies the Head, there's a couple of like light sprinkles of worker placement in there because that feels right for nobles. Like, I am taking the spread. I keep coming back to spread rumors. I'm taking the spread rumors spot, and because you have less esteem than me, you can't take it. This is from very dry Euro style board games that are about like farming mud, and that's it. But in terms of like, I think a lot of my smaller designs, so like things that I just put on itch and forget about, or things that I turn into pamphlets and sell at zine fairs and forget to tell anybody on the internet about, a lot of those will pull mechanics from my existing games and like in ways that I'm like workshopping that to get to the final version, I think. But I do like to play around in new mud.
You've got to farm mud. We talked about this.
So it'll probably be a bit, and I think a lot of that comes from also, I'm not that good at like directly hacking a system. Like I've tried to sit down, like, oh, what does a Forge in the Dark system look like if I make it? And 10 minutes later, like I've thrown out the dice, I've replaced this, and it's like, well, I'm just making a new thing that's inspired. And so I find that's very similar when I try to hack my own stuff. So I just end up somewhere else.
Well, and I think that's an interesting part of it though, right? Is taking those ideas and running through that. And I think what's interesting about creative pursuits of kind of any stripe is not cutting yourself off and saying, well, that's a bad idea, and just stopping and saying like, no, let's go where this, let's see where this takes us. Or I don't think this is what I want to be doing right now, and let's put this down. the joke I always make is every game designer has the game that they just made, the game they're working on right now, the second game that they're working on sometimes when they're sick of working on the other game, and then 3 to 6 like crazed scribbles in a notebook. Where you wake up from a dream and you're like, what if it was Lancer but ducks? And then you're like, what did that mean? I don't know. And then Zine Quest rolls around and someone goes, wait, hang on, I got Lancer but ducks. Let's get on this. And sometimes you have to work on 2-3 games and then you realize, oh my God, I know exactly what I want to do with Lancer but ducks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. And I'm trying to count in my head. I've got at least 4 that I'm actively, we'll say 5 games that I'm actively working on and sort of bouncing between. So yeah, you're right on that.
And it's always interesting to hear, like, to talk to people and realize like the amount of, because I think it'd be very easy to assume from social media or project updates or whatever, however you follow people, that it's like, oh, they work on one thing and they work on it and there it is. And it's like, no, that's they've been working on this. Possibly. But also maybe this was a Word doc that they've had on their computer in some way, shape, or form for 6 years. And one day one of those times they just went in there and Shift A and deleted everything and started again. Maybe that happened.
They drag it into a folder like old version. drag all the files.
Right.
And so then there's nested old version folders.
You never fully delete. You're like, look, there might be something in here. I don't know. Can't fully delete it.
There's probably something in there, surely. For a different game.
What sort of drew you initially and with this version, what sort of drew you to make a court intrigue game? Like very specifically the idea of players are nobles representing whatever houses, countries, what have you. What sort of made you interested in that play space, design space, narrative space?
I think a lot of my favorite games are ones that allow you to behave in a way that you shouldn't, and you shouldn't do in normal life, and you wouldn't do in normal life, but you've created this little box for you to like, what's it like to just be a little scheming prick? Like those, so like social deduction board games like The Resistance or Blood on the Clocktower, there's a bunch of these are probably my favorite games, because it's like, what if I just get to lie to people and try to figure out if they're lying to me for an hour, and then we walk out of that and we're still friends and nobody actually lied in real life, because that would feel slimy. So that is sort of the appeal on a personal level of like why I would want to do a Royal Court game. It's like, okay, these are some of the biggest fuckers that caused so many problems in our world that like you would never want to be like this in real life. Hopefully, one day we can move away from powerful fuckers altogether, but that's, this whole other thing.
People love making kings. People love it.
How can I create a game that lets us like pull on these neurons that are in all of our brains that like are good at being shitheads, that like we don't have to, we can tell the other neurons in our brain that are like, hey, community and being cool, that's more important than turning on the fucker neurons. We can give those ones a break and just be rude for 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 4 times, depending on how long our campaign is. And that's great. So that's really what draws me to this type of game.
Look, I'll show you how important community is. I spread rumors about everybody, and it went terribly. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have done that. And we can all sit here and we can recognize that that's what happened.
Right.
Gary declared war turn 1, and look how well it worked for him.
Right. All of his stuff is ripped up. If this was real life, all of his actual stuff and friends and houses would be broken and shattered, but they're not, because it's just a dang game, and that's great. But you got to feel it, Gary.
Right. You got to be the guy who said, I declare war, and then now you're here, and now maybe you understand.
Yeah.
Gary having maybe worse bed. It's like, well, okay, Gary, hang on. That's not.
Yeah, Gary's.
I mean,
learning.
listen, we can talk about this, but let's stay in the game. Again, I'm gonna start a sentence with just effusive praise about the game. I really like the dice mechanism in this because I there's any number of games where you roll a d6 and you want to roll high or you want to roll low or whatever, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with this. It's exciting when it's something new. And as you mentioned before, what you're looking for when you roll these d6s is you're looking for different faces. And then when people are rolling against you, that allows them to, or against you specifically, that allows them to negate one of the faces that you've rolled to cut it down. And I'm curious, kind of what brought you to that specific decision. Was it a specific like idea for randomness, for sort of being able to throw off whether people will be able to accurately predict, okay, if I've got 3d6, that means I can probably, oh, I'm rolling 5, that's almost certainly 2, and all of this. Because it's such an interesting little twist on it that, my brain immediately goes like, well, there's got to be a reason. He's got to have a good reason for it.
I think the biggest thing is I like how much it obfuscates the stats. Like, good luck mathing out the possibilities on this thing. It's not going to happen. So you have to go with like a vibe. It's a very vibe driven. Like, how much am I going to invest in this roll? Because I need a 3. So immediately the player knows, okay, they need a 3. 3 dice is the minimum they get, and they only start with 2. They got to spend something here. And so then they're like, okay, let me fly by the edge of my seat here. Is that right? Something. Seat of my pants. If I do 3, and I fail, then that's on me. I should have brought more dice to the party. And now somebody else is hopping in to interfere. And so now I'm sweating because like I could roll 3 and you could roll 6 and I could still get 3 because you could whiff on all 6 of yours and I could hit 3 different dice and it will still work. So there's always a possibility that it works if you bring enough dice, but then you're always stressed. That's like the 2 things that this specific dice mechanic really pulled together well, while also obscuring what are the odds of rolling 4 different faces on 7 dice. I genuinely don't know. I tried to math it out many times.
It sounds complicated. I saw a TikTok literally just yesterday about what are actually the odds on rolling 1 on each of 2 dice. Is it 1 out of 6 or is it 1 out of 11? It turns out it's 1 out of 11. I don't know if that's true, but it's more complicated than you think it is. And then especially when you're thinking of like, okay, I don't need to just roll numerically 3. I need to roll like differentially 3. I need to roll 3 different things.
3 different things. Yeah.
That's and thinking about it in my head in the middle of while you were answering that question, a thing that I should have said at the beginning, it does feel a lot more board gamey because in a lot of board games, you're not just rolling D6s to like, I got to roll a 3. You're rolling some weird custom dice that's like, all right, so I got a blank, I got a sword, I got 2 swords, I got a shield, and I got a crown. And what I need to do this attack is I need 3 swords. And Adam's going to roll defense and he can negate my swords with shields or crowns. So what I got to do is figure out like how many do I think?
Right.
And that's the real dice math.
Yeah. It definitely, I'm sure in some part comes from games like that. Games like the Star Wars X-Wing miniatures game.
Oh yeah.
I used to play a lot of that. And so it's got these D8s that have a lot of, it's like 3 blank faces, 3 hit faces, and 2, if you spend resources, you get a hit face. And then the same on like the dodge, mostly blank, a couple of dodges. And so like that just throws you for a loop of like, still anything's possible. I could roll 1 die against your 5 evade dice and I could still hit you. So we may as well play it out. That's It's definitely, I'm sure, in some part comes from there.
It has that feeling of, well, if the other option is nothing, I may as well do something.
Mhm.
You know, as long as it doesn't, like, if the answer, if I've got two things in front of me and I could try it and not have any massive benefit, but maybe get a hit, or I could just not do nothing, and let's start it. Let's see what happens.
Let's roll a dice. Whatever. All you have to do is use the My Father the King card to get that extra die, and then you're good to go. You won't need them later.
Yeah, no, it's totally, yeah. I really want to spread this rumor, so I'm going to tell my dad the king, and that won't become important.
No worries.
Assets in this game. This is the second time assets have sort of come up, and I think assets are such an interesting piece of this game. Like you said, you can't make a game without note cards. And I love in TTRPGs when you have something, you have something physical, you have something you can like touch and play with and move around. You know, all the greats of TTRPGs have note cards in that way. In Uneasy Lies the Head, you have assets that, you know, represent people, places, things, concepts, you know, like the love of the people or something like that. And they have sort of traits assigned to them that you can, you know, sort of call on to use scenes and, you know, like sort of help lead your role play, you know, where is your advisor, you know, more loyal to the king or, you know, whatever, any number of things. And what I love is, one, I just love the little design you came up with name in the middle and the 4 traits around. Because as you go through play, you will tear these off. Whether, you know, you lose scenes, you lose roles, what have you, you tear these off, and that changes how they are. It changes how they interact. And I love any sort of system like that where you can define a thing and you have a very clear, big moment when you change that. Like that's really fun. Like I love the idea of like the king being generous. And then we have a big scene and we're just like, no,
not anymore. What's that going to look like?
We gotta take that off. That's fun.
The king has turned off the hose. Good luck.
I got cut off. One too many war.
Yeah.
But the other fun thing that happens with assets, and this, we talked about secrets a little bit before. This game has secrets, and I really love the way that you do it, where you write it on the underside of an asset that it's connected to, which is great for 2 reasons. One, it gives you the little schemy secret moment to be like, oh. But in the same way that we talked about, it's visible to everybody at the table. So everybody sees me pick up, Abraham, my advisor, and go, and put it back down. And they go, hang on now. That's a secret.
Immediately, I gotta see what's under.
Right, I gotta know what that secret is. My whole life is about that secret.
And then there's the third angle of it, where it's a secret. It's not a secret to the players, because you could do this too. Of like, hey, everything that just happened in that scene, I'm putting it under Abraham, the advisor. You don't know about it.
Right, it happened in front of us.
For you to know about it,
you don't know about it.
For you to know about it, I have stored it under Abraham. Come and get it. Good luck.
I've stored it
so you have you've got the cool secrets of like, this player is keeping a secret from the other players, and that's fun for some people, I think, to have that ability to be like, ooh, the big reveal is coming soon, and you can come and get it if you want. Or the, you know, more story game style, we all know, but you have to play like you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Until you unlock it through this. I think both of those being present, I like both of them. Like when they happen, when somebody does a big reveal, that's awesome. When somebody tells me I'm not allowed to know a thing that I, as Adam, know, I'm into it. Because now I'm gonna make a mess of that.
Right. Oh, I don't know that you have a twin brother. I'm gonna walk into that room right after he walks out every time. Every time I walk into that room, he's just left. Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible, the timing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't have a question. Sometimes I just want to say this is cool.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. So like assets, I guess for a little bit more, I could just explain them a little bit.
Yeah,
Maybe
no,
that's the
tell.
question.
I
What's
do.
going
I
on?
do honestly feel like this came up in another episode where it's like sometimes the question is just like, this thing is cool. Tell me about it. And I feel like it should be more like exciting than that. Like, I feel like I should learn, you know, how to like interview and try to like how to lead into that and make an interesting question. But also sometimes just like, that's rad. How did you come up with that? What made you think of this cool thing?
Yeah. So yeah, there are note cards. There are 4 types of assets. There are holdings, which is land, castles, manors, this kind of stuff. There are peers, which are all of the main characters of the game and like some of the side characters. So each player, their main character is an asset, kind of undistinguished from any other. They're on a note card and they can be ripped to pieces and stolen by other players and all this stuff, which we can get to in a second. There are artifacts, which is the cool trinkets. These are crowns, thrones, some badass sword. The very first iron ingot was one of my favorites from a game that we played.
That's funny.
It became this like battle of history. Like that was my family's ingot kind of shit.
I like the idea. Stuff like that always tickles me of just like, yeah, we made that and then we set it aside because we knew it would be important. Then we kept going.
Right. And then there's resources, which are basically anything else. Like you said, concepts like the love of the people, the fear of the people, or more concrete things like I've got great food supply lines. I've got these fields of wheat that are lush. And so each of the assets has the name of it on the inside in a box. And then in the 4 margins, there are these 4 marginalia, which are these traits. And the traits do a great thing for the players of like both. I want you to describe each asset you make. Like, tell me that this person is loyal to the king. Tell me that she hates the king. She could have both. Why not? Tell me that the king is generous. Like, yeah,
being loyal doesn't stop you from hating him.
Right. You could grit your teeth and do your job if you have to.
Yeah.
That's the king. What does it matter if I hate him? So it's both describe this thing, but then also tell me what stories, tell the rest of the table what stories you're interested in with this thing, because hanging over every asset is the threat of being broken. And so when you break an asset, this is where you tear off one of the marginalia that then suddenly loses this thing. So the king is no longer generous. The fields of wheat are no longer lush. Suddenly they're barren. This is going to have far-reaching concerns. And I'm both putting these fields of wheat in the game. So that's already a fictional flag that I'm planting. But now I'm telling you like what I want to see happen to them if something happens to them. And so everybody has access to all of these at any given time. And at the very beginning of the game, in the prologue, which is where you make most of the assets for the game, there's also this element of taking them from each other, where like you've defined the fields of wheat and you've also decided that you are the monarch in our story. And that's given you these fields of wheat. I have decided I'm from the plains, and that allows me to take your fields of wheat. They're mine now. You've written all these cool things on them. These are great.
I'm glad you made these so good for me.
Mm-hmm. This is mine. And now we have a story that we have to figure out, like in the past, of like, why did I take this asset? So this one note card is doing a lot of work on our story in a way that is hopefully like very smooth for the players, but it also allows them to like write prompts for other players to tell the story in the future. And that, I like it a lot.
It would be weird to design a game that had a mechanic that you hated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm
assets,
sure it's been done.
Yeah, so assets are cards. I hate using note cards in my games. But so they're on note cards.
I'm under some sort of witch's spell that makes me keep putting the note cards in the game.
I got switched with a changeling, and so every game I design has to have a D20 initiative system. It's just
it must, and I love it. Definitely,
it's so good. Uneasy Lies the Head does a thing that I really like. Again, I'm just going to talk about how cool the thing is. It's half of what I do here. it does a thing that I really like, which is, and I talked about this when I talked with Graham. I like when games tell you the rules. It's a great part of reading a game is when they tell you how to play it. But then I also really like when a game tells you how to play it well. I like this new, this new thing in the OSR that a lot of games are doing that give the players and the GM guidelines, that says, hey, here are the things that are going to lead to maybe not like successful play, but effective play. This is the thing that the game wants you to be doing on either side of the table. And Uneasy Lies the Head does a very similar thing of, hey, here are ways to approach this game. Here are ways to think about doing this. Here are ways to sort of do this. How important did you feel it was to include kind of in sort of a peek behind the curtain thing of, here are the things I want you to be doing as a player, as the designer?
Yeah, I think the more sort of kind of complicated, the more different rules you have going on, which this game has quite a few. Relatively simple rules, but there's a lot going on. The more that that's happening, the more as a designer, I worry that whenever I play test, I'm doing a lot of shit that I'm not writing down that is facilitating the game. So how am I making sure to capture all of these little things that I might not notice that I'm doing to facilitate this game and put that in the book? So there's the whole, I assume you're talking about like the facilitator's guide zone of the book and like the plan clarifications. Those felt like pretty important, just to make sure that like, it's one thing to have the rules and the structure written down, but without me at the table with you, you might play it wrong, and that's fine, but you might play it wrong in a way that is worse, and then you don't like it, and then you think the game is bad. And you're gonna play wrong. It's very hard to play a game, quote unquote, correctly and not miss a rule or two. Like these things are gonna happen with every game. So if I put some tips on how to facilitate the game, how to make sure that everybody's having fun, make sure you're checking in with all the players, make sure that I've listed in one specific spot all of these like little tasks that I am pretty sure I'm doing every time I play. And then saying, you should hand these out to the other player. Like, make sure everybody's doing some of this so that this stuff is getting done. And that's basic things like making sure that the plans get written down and that we're keeping track of what round we're on. Somebody's going to do that. I always do that when I play because I know it, but you always worry that it's going to be harder. I don't know. But then also things like, make sure somebody is paying attention to, make sure everybody's paying attention to the safety tool at the beginning of the game, but make sure that like somebody is specifically like, hey, wait a minute, we crossed out incest. We said no incest in the game. You're getting a little close to incest.
Yeah, it sounds a little
just it's getting I don't second cousins, I don't know where the line. Anyway, so making sure that that's all in there, and then also just kind of chatting with the person reading the game about what I like about it in that same way, I think is good. And then going through each of the big plans, that felt like there was something missing in the doc until I did the plan clarifications, where I just go through each one and I say, this is why you might want to do this, and this is sort of the vibe of it, and this is why I put these options in here. Because they're weird and they're hard, and maybe you never read that part if you're just playing and somebody else is facilitating. But like, if you get confused, I want you to be able to find the answers, or at least find me there to say, it's good. You're good to be confused. Don't worry about it.
This is confusing.
Trust the process.
You might be confused. Oh, thank God. Okay.
Oh, I'm safe.
It's not me. Thank God. You also have a glossary in the back, which I appreciate. As a person who very specifically struggles to get my partner to play card games, my wife's rule for card games is There's a certain amount of keywords on a card that she will accept without like clarification that she has to check a glossary. And then there's a point where it will be too much, and it's a moving target. And so I always appreciate games when games have glossaries, definitions, appendices, that sort of thing, to one, clarify language. It's never bad to sort of make sure that to say like, hey, when I say this word in the rules text, this is what I mean. I mean this, and so we can be clear, you know. But then also, like we talked about, coming from board games, it's a very, very common thing in board games. Like you said, describing the plans, there's a lot of Euro style board games where you'll flip to the back of the rule book and they will explain every card in way more language than they can put on a single card. And sometimes having that language is really important to be able to say like, well, why would I want to do this? This doesn't seem beneficial. This seems like too high of a cost for what I benefit from. Like, I don't understand. Oh, I see. You know, the common Euro game thing of like I pay 2 to gain 3. That doesn't. Oh, I gain the 2 back. You know,
it's 3 every round. Oh my god!
Right. The first time we played Agricola, where I was like, wait, I just put my wheat on the field. That doesn't. Oh, there's more wheat, and that turns into. Okay, now I see what's happening.
To get wheat, you have to put wheat.
You have to start with wheat, and then
pig beget cat pig. Yeah, in the glossary in particular is one of those things that once I started writing it, I was like, oh, I do need this. Because there's a lot of entries. There's way more things in that glossary than I expected. I had to shrink the font from the body font. It was that overflowing.
It's a thing that I think is kind of an unexplored space in TTRPGs, is the separation of the rules in the moment and then the expanded rules, you know, the greater rules, where it's like, okay, here's everything. And what you only need in the moment is this. And once you understand all of this, you can reference it like this. And probably just because a lot of TTRPGs probably just don't need big explainers with, but sometimes you do. And sometimes that's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I remember one of the, long ago before COVID, we had a sort of TTRPG meetup thing where we would go to Perkins. I was like, Denny's. Sometimes it was Denny's, and then it was Perkins.
Most.
We would go to Perkins, and every week somebody would just bring a TTRPG, and we would just play, and that would be that. And we played one TTRPG once that was incomplete. Very specifically, it was like in development, but it was so poorly written from a grammatical sense. I don't know. They would use different words to describe seemingly the same like thing. And so there was a lot of cross language with that. And I remember specifically being like, I know it's in development, all of that. I feel like you got to have that together. I feel like you
got to get your terms in order.
Yeah. You have to know your terms before you expect me to learn the terms.
Yeah. And that's something, especially as like versions go on and you like change one thing to another, and you got to be, oh crap, I have to go through everything that mentioned this term because I've changed it to another one, which thankfully didn't happen too much in this specific version of Uneasy. So once the Great Wipe happened, a lot of those terms I just sent away, and like these new ones came in eventually.
I'm not using any of these words anymore. Ban these words from the design doc.
Yeah, ban these words. Well, at least they're not words. And I think a large reason the glossary for me is important in this game is because I am a little bit averse to capitalizing or underlining or italicizing like game terms in the book, because if you're doing that too much, it messes with the flow of the text and like the understandability, because I'm like, oh, whenever you make a die roll, like it starts to get annoying. And so I don't do any of that.
It looks like die roll is italicized, but it's actually die and roll separate.
Yeah, it's two
They're
different
just right
things.
next to each other. Yeah, I get that. I've read any number of board game rules and manuals and things where I play enough Fantasy Flight games I've had 3 rulebooks in front of me at a time where I'm like I'm like, okay, so this says you're blinded, and then this means you get this condition. In the Fantasy Flight way, you get a condition that means a condition, and then you're like, okay, according to this, in the campaign mode, we treat this condition as this condition, and then because we're playing this expansion, this character can do both of those things, and then you just throw them all up in the air. And
but this one says blinded with a lowercase b. Am I good?
Does he just mean like narratively blind? Like, is this blinded like for flavor, or you?
Or did they just miss the capitalized, bold, underline, italicized buttons just this one?
When they wrote it, did they just search capital B blinded to make sure all of those were bolded, and then this one was lowercase so they didn't catch it? Did you print out the errata that I emailed you this morning? It's an actual thing I've had to say at a board game day, and sometimes you sound like a Looney Tune because you have to say those sentences out loud. That's fine.
Yeah.
The fun question, I think the thing every designer, every creative wants to hear when they're finally done with the project is, hey, what's next?
Yeah, good question. It depends on timing and tariffs and all this other shit.
Yeah, what a fun time to be making things that need to be produced with paper from other countries.
Yeah, dumb idea.
Great.
That. So the next big project for me is Uneasy Lies the Head was actually supposed to be a little short, simple game that I make to remember how to make games as a diversion from this other one. It didn't. A year later, like, I'm still not done because it ended up being big. The game kept designing itself and being big and cool, and I was like, wait a minute, I gotta. So the next big one that I set aside for this is called the Locked Room Murder Mystery Game. It is basically a murder mystery generator. It's like a GM-less storytelling role-playing game where you start by making a bunch of characters that nobody's playing specifically. So it's like a pile of shared characters. And then you start setting scenes with these characters. And at a certain point, the game tells you, oh, this character dies. It's now a murder mystery. That was the lead up. Now it's time for the investigation. And then you keep going and you do investigation and you're generating all these clues and updating the clues from the first phase. And then the game tells you, oh, this character did it. And this is like randomly generated. So it's one of your, but with a little bit of foreshadowing narratively, because it's like a piece bouncing around on the different character cards, and whoever it lands on when a certain card is drawn either dies or did it. But yeah, then it's up to you to like piece. Okay, we've dumped out all these clues. We have all these characters that have done all this suspicious stuff. What actually matters? Let's tie it together. And now we have our like completed murder mystery story. So yeah, that's the next big one. You can currently play test it. If you go to lockedroomgame.com, the full rules are there. And I just need to produce it, which is, in progress, ? But so that's the big one. The side one, depending on the tariff situation, if I just go back to zines or books until the whole thing blows over, because the locked room is going to be like a full box experience with like instead of note cards, we've got dry erase cards that are reusable.
That's great. Everyone, yeah. I almost bought a bunch of those for TTRPGs once. I saw them in a store and they were a little pricey, and that's why I didn't. But I was like, these would be good.
These would be nice. Yeah. If I don't do that soon, which would be like early next year, I would run a Kickstarter for it. It would be, I've got a trio of apocalypse related games that I'm calling the End Times Trilogy.
It's a good name.
I think I might do it for Zine Quest, whether I do the Locked Room or not, because they're almost done. Yeah, it's 3 games, basically unrelated, but for some reason I keep making games about the end of the world. I don't something going on.
Don't investigate that. It seems unimportant. I don't think it means anything.
So the first one is it's called Que Sera Sera, which is an old, not English, but it sounds like it's not English, but it's only used in English phrase for. I've read a whole article about this name whenever I picked it because it's fascinating stuff. It's like at a certain point it was spelled like the French version of que sera sera, which translates in English. It means what will be will be. Anyway, linguistics aside, it's a fascinating word. Look it up because it's only in English and not grammatically correct in the languages that it's spelled like at different times. So it's just
that's
really
English,
weird.
baby.
That's a game about basically you'll have 4 of these main characters kind of going through life while the entire world around them falls apart kind of in fast motion. So it starts with a bunch of like guided scenes using prompts that I write. And then the second part is no prompts. You're just drawing cards to see how much shit you destroy. And then if all of the things that are surrounding one of the main characters gets destroyed, then, they're next on the list. And that is cool and fun and great.
I love describing a mechanic of someone's entire world being destroyed and life falling apart and then being like, and that's great.
That's what we do it for. The second one, it's called Into a Warm Sun. This one's very, very inspired by, I always forget the number at the beginning, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yes.
It might be 11 or 12. I think it's 10.
I think it's 10.
So it's basically a game where you're trapped in a bunker with a huge prick, but he says the world is ending and you can't leave. And so it's the GM of this game is also controlling the warden of this bunker, and it's just got this very explicitly combative vibe that I haven't released it yet because I don't know if I want to play as the warden, so I got to get somebody who wants to do that because it feels like it'd be horrible.
It's like Dog Eat Dog, where it's like, that's a cool game. I don't ever want to play that game. That sounds like a time for everyone.
Yeah, I'd happily play as somebody trapped in the bunker, but I don't know if I have what it takes to trap people in the bunker. And then the third game is a game about basically a looping apocalypse type thing where everybody has a character and they're hopping back and forth between different like times and places because every time the world just ends. What the hell? And then as players, we just cut to the next world. Same characters. We just put them somewhere else. And then it ends again. And so it's just sort of a weird, almost belonging outside belonging, tarot-driven, experimental type game.
This makes me... My immediate thoughts about hearing this trio of games, and this is me receiving this directly from Adam. This is my live reaction to this moment. It feels like, Adam, sometimes it feels like a lot of your games are that scrawled notepad in the night where it's just like where it's like the GM is keeping you in a bunker, and then you're like, oh shit, I guess that's the next one. Oh no, okay. And like, yeah, but in a way that like, that's good. Like I always, I've said this, I say this on the podcast a lot. I don't consider myself a creative person that I don't have like creative drive like that. Like, I'm not like, oh, I need to write music. I need to write a book. I need to do these things. And so I'm always, part of why I made the podcast. I'm always interested in what drives people to create the things that they create in the way that they make them and all of this, like I said, hence the podcast. And it's so interesting sometimes to hear that trio of games put together that's like, no, why the hell did you do that? Why is that what you did?
Yeah, it's a good question. The interesting thing about the bunker one is that started with the dice mechanic. It's an adaptation of a gambling dice game called CeeLo. And I was like, what the fuck this is great for, like, I've come up with this idea that CeeLo can be used as a dice mechanic that is very much about like battling for narrative control. Because basically what it is the GM, anytime the players are like, I don't think I'm officially disagreeing. that's when you'll roll dice in this game. Whenever you're like, no, stop. Whether that's in character or like, it'll say like the GM can set a new scene, can just say, no, that scene's over. We're fast forwarding like a week. If you're like, no, I still have more I want to say here. You can make the GM roll to see if they like keep control of the narrative. Because CeeLo is a game where you roll 3 dice, and there are, I think, like 4 or 5 different hands that you're looking for. So either like a run of 3, a pair, or like, they're very odd. It's like the game is going to be difficult to explain because the hands of dice. But if you get no hand, then you reroll. And so the idea is going to be, if the GM hits the thing that allows the players to step in and roll, then they'll roll, and maybe they wrestle control of the narrative for a second, and they move some of these sliders that are going on to allow them to escape the bunker or whatever. So that one came from a dice mechanic. So I don't know. I don't know why. And then it was so combative. I was like, I don't know where to put it. What was that movie where they were in the bunker? Let me remember that again. Yeah. And then we end up there. And then these other 2 games kind of came from reading different books and just like thinking about how bad stuff is, and like allowing I've got sort of a revolutionary optimism type thing that I try to nurture as much as I can, that like better things are possible. I swear. But letting that, like, setting that aside, maybe it's going back to like why I like lying in games and being a fucker, is I can make a game that's like a total bummer. I don't have to be a bummer to do that. And it can like help me gas some of these feelings, some of this like doom and gloom that you can't help but generate every day for the last 5, 10, 15, 20. We'll stop at 32 years because that's how many I have.
Right, yeah, we'll say that many. Yeah. It's so... The bunker game sounds immediately exciting, because I love the idea of, we've talked about the idea of a competitive TTRPG and like what makes a game competitive and interestingly competitive. And I like the idea of making a game that's like, no, actually, this one's actually competitive. This one is the GM is like, you're going to stay in the bunker and you're not going to do anything. You're going to shut up and we're going to live quietly. And the player's like, well, I don't want to do that. And the GM's like, too bad. Because I rolled 3 6s. So too bad.
Right. Too bad. I'm more in control now because you made me roll.
Right. You made me roll. You made me roll. Now you don't get food because you were a jerk about it. And it's like, well, hang on now. Come on, man.
And then immediately they disagree, and now we're rolling again.
I love the idea. It made me think of Severance in an interesting way, in the way that like Severance is a really interesting show. Because it feels like, it felt like that, especially the second season. It felt like there was like, I guess maybe more specifically the second season, because the second season was a lot of fallout. But it felt like the first season was like, here are the things, like they were establishing the world, and it's like, here are the ways that the world works. And the whole show was the characters like throwing rocks at that. Like, no, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to happen. And sometimes they would succeed and sometimes they wouldn't. And it's interesting, especially when it's a person. It's very funny to me that it's not just, the faceless existence of the game, but like, no, Gary, we want to go out. We want to go outside.
Power Gamer Gary is stepping in as
Gary loves the idea.
Gary
loves the idea of being able to be in charge.
Type of game you don't necessarily want to play with the guy who loves the idea. You need a reluctant GM for this one.
I'm so excited to run this. No, we're not. Sorry if you listen to this. Sorry if you listen to this podcast. Your name is Gary. I apologize. That's not on you. Not your fault.
As long as you're not Power Gamer Gary, we're not talking about.
Yeah,
you.
Don't be I hope you're not a jerk. If you're a jerk, Gary, maybe it's you, but hopefully it's not. Moving away from Gary. gently moving aside from Gary. Let's talk about let's talk about homework. As we're sort of getting the end of our time here. If this is somehow your first episode, first of all, welcome. Hello. Homework is the part of the show where I ask the guests to bring cool things that they're excited about in whatever sort of genre or whatever that they want to bring, that they want to share. And much the same way that the podcast is, here's the thing that I'm excited about and want to share with you. This is their opportunity. So Adam, go ahead. Tell me what you got for homework.
Cool. Yeah. The first that I brought, it's a book that I've been reading on and off. It's called Exercises in Style. I have it here because I forget who it's by. It's a book that originally came out in French in 1947 and was recently translated to English. And so I picked it up at my local bookstore. Oh, not that recent, 2012. Anyway,
that's considering it was written in 47. That's pretty recent.
Yeah, on the timeline of the book was originally written to now.
Yeah,
it's closer to recent. So it's this book. This guy just did these exercises in style, which is why it's called that. He has one little story and he tells it over and over and over again in like 100 different like writing styles. It's a very simple story of, I got on the bus. There was this guy with a long neck and a weird hat, and he got mad at the guy next to him, and then he went and sat down. And then I saw this guy later, and his friend was telling him his button was too low. That's the story that he tells 100 times in this book, but in all kinds of different ways, like just playing with language in a way that I can't imagine being the translator, for one, because it's like, oh, now I'm doing this. I just flipped to a random page. This is the precision chapter, where now it's like in a bus of the S line, 10 meters long, 3 wide, 6 high at 3 kilometers. And it's like, this one is all about precisely describing the situation. Whereas, I don't know, they're just all different and weird and funny. And I think it's, if you have any enjoyment of either linguistics, writing, reading, I think it's an interesting book.
Yeah, that's interesting. That feels like one of those things that you would almost never seek out for yourself, but hearing someone tell you about it, you're like, oh wow, okay, I see why that's interesting. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, there's one that I'd never heard. I saw it on the table at my local bookshop, and I was like, what is this? Because it has a great cover. It's like the picture of the author kind of broken up in a bunch of weird ways. So I was drawn by the cover, and then I was like, wait, this sounds really kind of dumb. I'm in. And so it's been great to have just like on top of whatever other book I'm reading. Oh, let me just read a few. I don't feel like reading a full book here. I'll read the same story now it's in dog Latin. Now it's
okay, so he gets wild with it. It's not just okay. All right.
Yeah,
because I was like, oh, that's a fun like writing exercise book. That's a great way to think about the ways that you describe things. And it's like, oh no, he also gets weird with it. Okay, cool, good.
It gets weird. It's all over the place. You don't know what you're going to read next, but you do, because it's the same crappy story.
That's great. I love that.
A video game I've been playing is Baby Steps.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which I don't know if you've tried it.
I've not, but I'm familiar.
Cool. To assume the audience isn't familiar, it's another game. This is a collaboration between Bennett Foddy and a few other game designs, but Bennett Foddy's the designer of like QWOP and Getting Over It. Just these like sort of weird experiments in game controls and frustration and whatever. And so Baby Steps, you're this guy named Nathan who passes out on his couch, and then you're in this like forest, and you're walking and you're walking. It's like awkward to walk. It's hard at first, so you're falling a lot because it's basically like the triggers on your controller tell the game which leg you want to push forward, and so then the stick pushes the leg forward, and it's like you get to a rhythm eventually. But the reason the game is fun is, one, it's like a great example of like an open world game very much understands that you don't need to fill a world with numbers, with like fetch quests, with any of this stuff. You just got to put things that make you go, what is that? And then you got to make it fun to get there. So there's no points, there's no leveling, there's none of this shit. There's just like points of interest, and then you know that you have to go to the next campfire to like progress the story. And that's the second part that's really good, is like the dialogue in the game is some of the most like natural dialogue I think I've ever seen in a video game, which is just, it's really good. It's really fun.
I watched someone play a little bit of it, and yeah, the dialogue at the beginning feels so natural. It's like they didn't know they were doing a video. It's like they didn't know they were being recorded. Like it just felt, right. You just said it in a way that's like, oh
it's
wow,
like
like it just existed.
Right, because in the main character, he's got this very anxious and shy personality that like comes out every time one of the cutscenes happen. Of like, I think maybe one of those very first ones, the guy's like, you need some shoes, and he's like, oh.
He's like, just come with me. I'm not gonna hurt you. He's like, no.
I'm just gonna. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, it's I'm very, very curious, as longtime listeners of the podcast, or if you follow my Blue Sky, hey, plug. That felt gross. I hate that. I talk a lot about like accessibility and difficulty settings in games and controls and the way that those things interact. And I'm super, super curious about this game in particular. Like kind of Bennett Foddy's like whole style. I think he if nothing else, he does interesting things with difficulty and controls and friction in games that at least makes his designs with it interesting. So yeah, I'm curious to check out Baby Steps.
Yeah, I think with the difficulty, it's just how much time are you willing to.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 2 hours trying to kick a soccer ball into a net, and nothing told me I needed to do that.
It's that video game thing where you see the net and you see the soccer ball and you go, all right, hang on. This is what we're doing now.
I don't know if I get anything out of it, but I will get something out of it. Like even if the game doesn't change.
I had that moment when I was playing Blueprints. There's the gymnasium and there's the hoop and there's a ball, and I'm like, can I do anything? Come on, man. You cannot. So
you can't,
don't.
Right? Can you?
Yeah,
okay.
No. Sorry to spoilers. Blueprint spoilers.
Spoilers. You can't dunk the ball.
Yeah, you can't do a sick dunk in the middle of Blueprints.
What the hell? This game sucks.
Yeah, refund.
Okay, last thing, I brought a TV show because I just found out that it's back yesterday. And I found it because I listened to an episode where I forget if it was you or the guest brought up Culinary Class Wars.
Oh yeah.
So I watched that and that was great, but I'm not gonna double down. That then brought me back to Chef in My Fridge, which is
I think I saw that.
Really great Korean variety show that hasn't been around since like 2019, and I guess it came back just last year. The concept of the show is they bring on two celebrities, so I don't know who they are, but they bring on two celebrities. They bring their fridges from their house. Like when they go to pick up the celebrity to bring them to the show, they bring their whole fridge. And then they have 8 chefs that are like recurring cast members on the show, and they do cooking challenges with the ingredients that are in the fridges.
That's great.
And it's just total chaos because it's like a 15-minute cooking challenge, which is not enough time to do anything.
No.
And then you've got the two like hosts, they're very much variety show hosts. They're high energy. They're screaming the whole time, like while they're cooking. When the 5-minute mark hits, like there's 5 minutes left in the cooking, one of the two hosts has to get up and like go and like see what's like taste the food that they're making, and so like they're just in the way. And then the other host would be like, "How is it?" And then they go, "It's too salty," and then everybody's screaming. It's just really great. So it's back, and they brought on a lot of like, I knew a couple of the chefs from Culinary Class Wars because they were in Shoving My Fridge,
Mhm.
and then they brought even more of them on to this like new iteration. I think like the popularity of Culinary Class Wars, maybe I'd have to check, but I think it revitalized Chef in My Fridge.
Mhm,
So then they
mhm.
brought all of these people back on, and it's fun. It's great.
That's
It's
awesome.
chaos.
Is it one of the Korean variety Netflix shows?
It is on Netflix. Yeah, they used to have the old ones on there, which is how I watched. But then they went away at some point, and I was like, well, "What the hell? We didn't finish watching all like
How dare
the
you?
100 episodes that are on here."
Yeah,
And
they've
I can't speak Korean. I need subtitles.
they've gotten a bunch of Korean shows. I read a thing not that long ago that it's apparently working out for them, and they're doing new seasons of a bunch of it. So that's cool.
Yeah. I think Netflix just licenses this one, but yeah, it's on there. So
That sounds great. I'm definitely gonna watch
watch.
that. That's fantastic.
There are spoilers for Culinary Class Wars if you haven't watched that.
Oh shit. Culinary Class
But
Wars
you
multimedia universe.
pretty much.
Yeah, you find out that in the second episode he loses his eye, and then he's gotta you want to see that happen in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. They Netflix actually for my homework, Netflix actually just brought back a Korean variety show that my partner and I really enjoyed, that I saw as part of us exploring, getting into the Journey to the West expanded universe of shows, checking out related things and all of that. It's called Crime Scene. There's a new season on Netflix called Crime Scene Zero, which is a really, really cool show. I think if you're into TTRPGs, you will definitely enjoy it. Basically what happens is, I think it's 8 hosts, celebrities, personalities, all of this. They're giving characters to play. It's basically a murder mystery TV show. They're given characters to play. They're set in, they're put in these very elaborate sets. In the original seasons, they had a big warehouse that they would put like some artificial walls they would tape off where doors and stuff were. And so you could be like, oh, we're going to go to the victim's house. We're going to go to their girlfriend's apartment. You can check their car. You can check their workplace. And so you just have this big space that everybody's moving around. And people had timed sections to look for clues. They had timed kind of cross-examination because the person who was the murderer knew they were the murderer. And, obviously nobody else does. But the big rule with the game that they didn't explain very well with the English subtitles was you can't ever lie unless you're the murderer. Okay. And so you have to assume that all the information that you're being given is correct, except unless maybe it isn't.
So if you can disprove anybody, then
right. And so it became this really fun thing where the actors in the show are simultaneously trying to portray their characters, but not portray their characters too well, but not give away information. And so it's really, really interesting show. Really interesting, like sort of mix of stories and stuff. My favorite one was, it was like a 3-parter of a murder on a cruise ship that then it ended and they were like, oh great, we did such a good job. And then another one of the characters drops dead. And that was the next episode. That was, that was fun. That's a fun narrative moment.
That's good.
So like I said, they have a new season on Netflix that has a lot of the same sort of recurring hosts, which was we haven't watched it yet, but we're very excited.
Yeah.
Another,
I feel like they get game designers for those shows.
Yeah, it's a really,
there's proper game design going on.
There's so many really fun variety. Like I usually call Korean variety shows game shows because in a lot of ways we're playing a game. Devil's Plan. If you're a game designer and you haven't watched Devil's Plan, you should watch Devil's Plan. You should go watch
the second season, but that first one was
the second one's so good. The second one is good in different ways, but also is very good. You should definitely hunt down, you should go find downloads of The Great Escape, which is kind of one of the hallmark shows in the genre of really gamified variety shows. It's so interesting to see like a show. It's I called Devil's Plan like Big Brother, but with mechanics. And it's it's such a weird way to describe that. But I think if you watch like 2 episodes, you're like, oh, I see exactly how we got here. And it's, if you like reality TV shows like Traitors. I watched the first season of UK Traitors not that long ago, and I feel like that is the same sort of vein of reality game show, like that really nice mix where it's not too drama focused and just enough game focused. Shout outs to The Mole. Real ones remember. You never watched The Mole on ABC hosted?
No.
Oh man. Oh, it's great. It was so good. Basically The Mole is what if you did, like, I guess a great touchstone around that time was The Amazing Race. What if you did The Amazing Race, but someone was a traitor and worked for the show and was trying to stop people from getting money? It's a great, cool. It was a new concept at the time, I guess here 2025.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Another homework that for a TTRPG I played recently that I definitely want to shout out is Curios by Will Jobs and Seb Pine, aka Good Luck Press. I played that with my partner for some extra stream stuff. Curios is an epistolary kind of thriller game where you are reading the letters sent from sort of your main POV character to his college friend. He just moved into a new house and he's writing letters to her to sort of recount the situation. And let me tell you, in the ways that it goes great for characters in such classics as House of Leaves, like it goes great for characters in Twin Peaks, like it goes great for characters in Alan Wake, it goes great for this guy. He moves into a new house and it's so good and normal and nice.
It's an excellent time.
Right.
No problem.
Everybody, he makes new friends. He goes to the library. He gets a new job. It's fantastic. It is such an interesting experience. It's delivered through these specific letters. And what I would absolutely recommend you do during this nice fall, quiet, spooky season is we did specifically Albrecht Manor. So people are looking, there are 2 versions of Curios. We did Albrecht Manor. Is get this game, comes in a fantastic manila envelope. Read a letter and then sit with it. And then the next night, 2 nights, whenever the mood strikes you, read another letter. Kind of tackle it like an experience. Yeah, like really get into it. Allow yourself to sit with it. Allow yourself to really engage with it. And I think you will really get into it. I think there's a lot of space to have for this.
Cool.
So yeah, I always want to shout out cool TTRPGs when I can. I don't think I have a video game. I've been playing Pokemon, but it seems weird to suggest Pokemon. Like it feels weird. I recommend
I found this great new game.
Yeah, the most popular media franchise on the planet. I don't know if you've heard about this. You guys heard about these Marvel movies? Wowzer. So yeah. Listen, I'll get a video. I'll figure out a video game. I don't have one ready. So
there's a lot of them, and most of them are solid.
They're good. You'll
get something out of it.
Oh, you know what? You know what? I played the DLC for Still Wakes the Deep today. I would absolutely recommend Still Wakes the Deep. Nice, sort of. I don't want to say quiet, methodical horror because there's definitely a point in the story when it becomes not. But a fantastic game from the Chinese Room about, in much the same way that we mentioned Curios, the character has a nice fun time. You play as a Scotsman on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean. And things go great. Things are as they always do when you're in the middle of the ocean. You have a nice, good, fun time. You have a good Christmas. So I'd say definitely, hey, with horror games, make sure you check out the content warnings, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. But I enjoyed the hell out of that game. I enjoyed the hell out of its DLC. So
cool. Why are they called the Chinese Room? Probably not time for that conversation. What is that? I've never heard of them.
It's just the name of the developers. I don't know why they're called the Chinese Room.
Okay. sent my eyebrow up.
I feel like a lot of developers have names that you would go like, why did you, what?
We should get this one.
How'd you come about that one? But yeah, that's homework. I always enjoy this part of the podcast. I always feel I don't want to say I enjoy this part of the podcast more, but I feel like this is such a fun, punchy part of the show where it's just like, yeah, here's a bunch of cool shit to go check out. I always enjoy this part. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it.
Absolutely stole the idea from another podcast.
Trying to figure out. Nice. Good job. It's nice to come up with, what do I like? I gotta make sure to write down what I like before I got on this call.
I think it sounds sappy. I think it's fun to share stuff that you're excited about.
Hell yeah.
I think it's fun to be like, this thing's cool. You should check out this cool thing. But so that brings us to the final question. Before we get into it, Adam, thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate the hell out of you. Thank you for taking time.
Thank you for having me.
Adam was amazing, and let me reschedule because I was feeling like crap, which is always wonderful of people. Listen, we would have done it if, sometimes you got to do it, and that's just life. But we didn't have to, and that's always wonderful. So yeah, the final question, the secret question, the question Adam doesn't know is coming. On my first episode with the amazing star, I asked her what 3 guests she would love to have on her podcast, and ever since then, I've asked every guest some sort of top 3 something. I come up with it during the show, so even I don't know what it's going to be when we get into the interview. And this is me stalling for time very slowly as I figure out what the question's going to be. We usually get to this point and I go,
what am I asking?
Right, and I go, this is a funny one, and if it's bad, I'll come up with another one. But this is a funny one. Adam, what are your favorite 3 roles that John Goodman has had? Like your favorite 3 movies and or TV shows that have starred John Goodman?
Yeah,
star of 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Walter Sobchak. Yeah, you got to put Walter from The Big Lebowski on there.
Yeah, obviously.
He's too good in that. You probably got to put whatever his name is in the Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
He's really good there. I think I got to catch up on that show. Anyway, you got to, let me think of a third, because he's too scary in 10 Cloverfield Lane. I don't know if I'd give it to him. I would want to give him, I know he's good in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But I fall asleep every time I try to watch that movie. I don't know why. Some sort of Pavlovian sleep response. So I never
That's funny.
finish it.
That's funny. I somehow fall asleep always before he shows up. That's good.
Yeah, I've never finished that movie, but I have slept to it a lot. Every time I try.
I don't want to say it's a slow movie. It's not actiony. It's not high pace.
Yeah.
It's very intentional.
I'm trying to think, what else has he been in? A lot, obviously.
The big obvious one is Roseanne, which is weird to talk about in 2025, but I think
love Roseanne. Huh?
Well, that's what
What's she up to? Huh?
I think it's weird to talk about in 2025, but I think of its time that was a big thing. You could talk about the Flintstones.
You could talk about the Flintstones.
Definitely didn't remember that he was in the Flintstones as I was talking about him being in Roseanne. I don't know.
Who's a better Fred?
Oh man.
All right, now I'm cheating. I'm looking at.
No, you should cheat. No, this is not cheating.
Let's see. And it's going to come down to what have I actually seen? I don't remember who he was in Raising Arizona, so I guess that doesn't count. I might end up having to go with 10 Cloverfield Lane.
By default.
Even though he's too scary.
I mean, it technically, I don't want to say it inspired you to write a game, but it was, it was pivotal.
It definitely did. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll go Walter Sobchak from The Big Lebowski. Mr. Gemstone. I don't. And then the Bunker Boy.
But he just looked it up. That's obviously what his credit is. He just looked it up. So
Yeah. I didn't even see 10 Cloverfield Lane on this Wikipedia page, so I'm sure there's a lot that I'm forgetting that also they didn't put on here.
that's really that's really funny when you go to Wikipedia and there's a thing on there that you know that it's like, why isn't this on here? Hang on. How did you...
I think he's done too much, so they just kind of picked whoever was writing his page. It's like, these are what I liked.
No, come on, Wikipedia. I expect complete information. We're fighting against AI now. We gotta work on this together. I need to know everything John Goodman has been in.
Because now I'm on the full filmography page and there's too much.
I was worried. I was like, if he knows who John Goodman is, this will be a good question. And if he doesn't, we'll figure something else out.
He was the cop in Diner from Chud.
Oh, okay. Wow. I had to take a whole second to remember what that movie was.
Yeah. I've never actually seen it, but it's always fun trivia. That's why we call these guys this.
That's
movie.
That's where it came from. Yeah. Gosh. There's stuff that I'm like, wasn't he in this? And then it's like, probably not. Because there's just stuff of the time that it's like, maybe he was in this. And it's like, no, you're thinking of John Candy.
It always goes back to Fred Flintstone.
I'm always thinking of Fred Flintstone. Never not. I took those vitamins for years, and that's what it did to me.
It's John Goodman.
Yeah, just always thinking of John Goodman.
Massaging your nutrients. He's there. He's helping you out.
It's thousands of John Goodmans running through my body, keeping me strong. So in the way that the 3 question always does, that's the end. We got to end the show because it's too goofy.
That's it.
We've hit the point. We've got the giggles. Like I said, Adam, thank you so much for being on. Go ahead, tell everybody where they can find you, where you want to point them to check out your stuff, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky at adambell.games. You can go to adambell.games. That's the website. But my Blue Sky, the pin post in the Blue Sky will have the backer kit for Uneasy Lies the Head, which currently you can pre-order there on the Pledge Manager. So you should do that.
Hell yeah.
Because I am going to need to sell these things. And they're really good. So
yeah, listen, the secret of the podcast is go buy the thing. So go buy, we talked about this.
Go buy.
Adam needs a new camera. Go buy the games. And then maybe eventually he'll get a new camera. It's not as certain as if you sent him money directly, but it's in the cards. It's a possibility. You get a game
or a camera directly. Just send me whatever.
Figure out his address and then send him a new camera. That'd be great. That would be great. Thank you so much. Links to everything will be in the description as always. So if you can't be bothered to type adambell.games, just right there, you'll be all set. But
click the link.
That's going to be the end. Go ahead, Adam. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
And that's the podcast. I want to thank Adam so much for sitting down and answering my silly questions about Uneasy Lies the Head. You could go get the digital version on Adam's itch page, or you can pre-order the physical version on the backer kit, depending on when you're hearing this. I'll say it again, as always, the links to all of Adam's stuff will be in the show notes. So make sure you go check it out, follow him everywhere, check out his games. As always, go buy stuff, give them money. So I mentioned some updates in the intro, and the first is that the podcast is officially a year old. We actually technically passed it, but I expected to have this episode out by then. But yeah, so we've been doing this a whole year. The first episode came out at the end of October, and then it took me almost a whole month to get another episode out. It has been a lot of learning. Honestly, I think the biggest thing about doing this podcast has been a lot of learning about myself and the processes that work for me to do this sort of venture. I want to thank all of the amazing people that have been on the show so far, everyone that gave me their time and their effort to help do my silly little show. Looking back at some of the episodes, it's wild to think how long ago some of them were. You know, it feels cliche, but some of these feel like they literally just happened. And of course, thank you. Thank you to everybody who's listened to the show, who's shared it with a friend, who's subscribed on whatever podcast app. You know, I make jokes about this being my silly little show, but I have a fantastic time doing it. And even with the effort and, you know, stress that comes along with it, it has been amazing. Going into the second year, I want to shift my focus very slightly. I've talked about this on previous episodes, and I think more specifically what I want to do is shift back to kind of my original idea, my original sort of vision for the show, which is just to talk to cool people doing cool stuff. I've settled into kind of a niche of talking to TTRPG people about their games right around when their crowdfunding stuff comes up. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm more than happy to continue to do that. And I have interviews lined up and people who've expressed interest, and I will continue to do that. But I also noticed that I let myself shy away from reaching out and doing some interviews because it felt outside of that, or it felt like it wouldn't fit, or all of these things. And it's kind of silly to have to take a moment and remind myself that it's my show and I get to decide who's on it and what happens, but that's what happens sometimes. So look forward to interviews with hopefully a lot more different people. I want to get in the habit of seeing a cool thing and reaching out to that person and connecting with them and having them on the podcast. The other big news, which isn't very exciting, but is a big deal, is I moved podcast hosts. This is something I've been thinking about doing for a little while and just kind of hit a point where I had a little bit of time where I knew I wasn't going to put a new episode out, so I could take the time to do the import process and make sure everything was okay. And I got a solid deal on top of it, which is always nice. And then found out that my old host had doubled the rate that I was grandfathered into. So yeah, so now I'm on a new host that has one flat fee that is less to have to worry about. I will take this time to plug the Patreon. If you would like to help me support the show and keep the lights on, you can go over to the Patreon linked in the show notes. You can help me pay for hosting fees and all that jazz. You can get access to an ad-free RSS feed for all of the audio episodes, as well as access to silly behind-the-scenes outtakes, just little bits that I cut out of the episode that are funny on their own, don't contribute to the interview. I don't really ever want to put an interview or anything like that behind a paywall because, I'm doing it for the love of the game. But it made sense to put little things like this here. Now, I can't end the episode, of course, without talking about our friends over at Plus One EXP. You can use the code WDPodcast to get 10% off anything you order, or 10% off your first month of Zine Club, which, as always, I highly, highly recommend. Zine Club is a monthly subscription service that delivers you amazing, unique, and sometimes exclusive TTRPGs straight to your door or inbox. You know, I should get someone from Zine Club on the podcast. But again, that's code WDPodcast for 10% off your order or your first month of Zine Club. Now, as always, I hope wherever you are, you're happy, you're healthy, and you're safe. I'll see you in the next one.